Hey Melanie, how are you? Hope you're having a good day. We'll just wait a couple minutes. Oh, hey Mom, and we'll see if anybody else. We'll just wait a couple minutes to see if anybody else is going to join in, and then we'll get going. So tonight we're going to be talking about meal prepping. So I just sent out in an email a link to the Google Drive file. There is a little handout. I have it here ready to go that just covers some of the meal prepping tips that I have. So if you want, you can go into the Google Drive and you can pull up the meal prepping document because we're going to be kind of following along with that tonight. Hey Brenda. Thanks, Mel. I'm doing well. I had a really long day at the clinic, an 11-hour day, and I just got home. I'm really, really tired, but I'm ready to go. I'm excited to talk about meal prepping. My mom, she made me dinner, so I was all ready when I got home and ready to roll. Hey Pam, I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. So Brenda and Pam, since you guys are just joining in, I sent out an email about 20 minutes or so ago that has a new document in it that I uploaded to the Google Drive file, and this just covers some of the meal prepping tips that we're going to talk about. So if you want, you can head into the Google Drive and you can grab the document that we're going to be following along with tonight for tonight's coaching session. So I'll give you guys a minute or so to grab that if you'd like, and then we will get started. All right, here we go. So welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight for our third coaching session. Tonight we're going to be talking about meal prepping tips. So there is the document in the Google Drive file that does cover kind of the 6 main meal prepping tips that I have, or sorry, I should say 5 meal prepping tips that I have. As we go through the chat tonight, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the comment box. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments just to make sure I don't miss anything. And then if you even have any of some of your favorite meals that you like to prep, feel free to share those as well, because it's always good to get ideas and bounce them off each other. Hey, Ann. I'm not in my pajamas yet, but I do have my cup of tea with me in one of my favorite mugs, so you guys can see that there. So the email that I sent out has the link to the Google Drive files, and then in the Google Drive files, there is the one that I just uploaded with the meal prepping tips. So meal prepping, we're probably all kind of familiar with the concept of what meal prepping is. Hey, Dan. So meal prepping is basically where you're making your meals in advance so that they're ready to go when it's time to eat. Meal prepping is super convenient because it helps you, you're more prepared because you already have those meals ready to go and you're not spending time every time at lunch or every time at dinner making food. Meal prepping also helps you make better food choices, and it helps you stay on track because you already have your meals planned out and ready to go. Meal prepping also helps save you money because you have those foods ready to go. You're going to be eating out a lot less. And meal prepping, though, the only downfall is that it can be easily made very difficult. because it sounds like it's easy, but sometimes when you sit down and you're trying to plan out meals, if you don't really have any guidance or you're not sure where to start, it can be a really hard thing to grasp. But once you kind of figure it out and you start coming up with a plan and some meals that you really like and that make good preppable meals, it's all super easy, and meal prepping is a lifesaver. And like I said, it's going to help save you money, and it's going to help keep you on track with your nutrition goals. So our very first meal prepping tip that I have for you would be to plan when you're going to make your food. So what that means is basically I want you to look at your weekly schedule and see when you have gaps in your schedule. So say when there's maybe a day you finish work earlier or you don't have any activities that night, so you have a couple hours in there. A lot of people like to meal prep on a Sunday afternoon. So maybe if you're free on a Sunday, that's kind of when you prep your meals. So what I want you to do is look through your schedule and find out when you have gaps in your schedule that you can use to make food and to meal prep. Some people prefer to meal prep in one big batch, one at a time. That's usually that Sunday afternoon where you go out in the morning and you do all your errands and you pick up your groceries, and then you come home and you spend kind of the afternoon prepping your meals for the week. Other people, like myself, I have probably 3 to 4 different times throughout the week where I actually set apart some time to make my meals. So for one of them, for me, for example, normally Sunday night, I will make something for dinner, but I meal prep for 2 to 3, maybe even 4 meals, depending on what I'm cooking. And then I'll have that for usually lunch on Monday and lunch on Tuesday as well. Monday night, I have a couple hours free, so I make another meal Monday. Same thing, I try and make it so I get 2 to 4 meals out of it. So I have it for dinner Monday, dinner Tuesday, and dinner Wednesday, or lunch on Wednesday. So you need to kind of sit down and look at your schedule and figure out when you're actually going to have times to prep your food. So like I said, it doesn't need to be all done on one day. Usually when you kind of spread it out throughout the week and you break up your meal prep, it makes it a little bit more manageable because you're not trying to do it all at once. Then you can also, when you're looking at your schedule, you can figure out not only when you have the gaps to make food, but when you're going to be super busy and you don't have time to actually make your meals. Then that way you can plan ahead. And if you say, okay, Monday night I finish work at 5, and then I go to the gym for 5:30, and then I get home and it's about 7 o'clock. But then I have to do this at 7:30, or I have to make laundry, get the kids ready for bed, whatever it may be. So Monday night you're pretty busy. It would be a good idea to have your meals already prepped so that Monday when you get home, you're not tempted to get takeout or grab something quick or unhealthy or eat an unbalanced meal because you have something already cooked. Another tip kind of going off of that is organize your grocery list according to the meals that you're prepping, and then try and pick up all your groceries in one grocery shop, because that will save you time throughout the week as well. So if you're going to prep, you're going to break your prep up into multiple times per week. You don't need to grocery shop multiple times because that's going to take up a lot of time. So usually what I like to do, like I said, I prep multiple times throughout the week, but what I'll do is I'll try and get all my groceries on Sunday. That way when I prep Monday night or Wednesday night or Thursday morning, I have everything at home. There's some things obviously that if you're not, you don't want to buy on Sunday, that might not make it to Friday. So you might have to, pop into the grocery store and grab it, but it's a lot easier to pop in the grocery store for 5-10 minutes and grab 1 to 2 things than to do an entire grocery shop multiple times per week. So as you're going through and you're picking out your meals, keep tabs of what ingredients you need, and then organize your grocery list accordingly, and then try and, like I said, find gaps in your schedule when you have time to actually make the meals. That's going to make the meal prep a whole lot easier if you can structure it in a way that's going to work for you. So that might be, for some of you, one big batch. Some of you might find it a little bit more manageable if you break it up into multiple times per week. Hey, Lindsay. All right, so our second tip, kind of going off of the make your ingredient list, is to make a menu at the beginning of the week, or maybe it's Friday night or Saturday, kind of probably the day of or the day before you do your grocery shopping, would be to make a menu of the foods that you're planning on eating. That way you know what foods you're going to buy. As well, one tip that I have is to jot down any ideas for meal prep foods as you think about them or you see them, because you don't want to say, oh, I'm going to make burrito bowls for meal prep next week, and you think that on Monday, and then when you get to Saturday, you're like, oh man, what was I going to make this week? It's a lot easier if you just have a little notepad or somewhere in your phone where you just jot down different menu ideas, and that way you always have them kind of fresh on your brain. Tip number 3 that I have for you, and I sometimes am guilty of this, especially when it comes to trying out new recipes and new meals, is make sure the recipes that you're cooking make enough food for the desired amount of meals. So it's really important that when you're going through and you're looking at different recipes that you want to cook, take a look at the serving size or the portion size, because there's nothing quite as disappointing as you go out and you buy all this food and you're going to make this great meal, and then you make it and you're like, oh shoot, that didn't make a lot of food. Then instead of having meals for like 3 or 4 days like you're planning on, maybe you only have it for 2 days. So make sure you take a look at kind of the serving sizes of the recipes that you're making, and then adjust the recipe accordingly. So say, for example, if a recipe is supposed to make 2 servings, and there's you and maybe your spouse or your partner that you're feeding, and you want that meal to last you 2 or 3 times, you're gonna have to double or triple the amount of food that you're buying. This happens to me, like I said, especially when you're trying new recipes and you go and you buy food, or you think you've bought a lot of food, and then by the time you cook it up and you put it on your plate, you realize you don't have a lot of food left for all the meals that you're planning on prepping for. Some of my favorite recipes that you can easily increase the amount of food and make a lot of food that's going to last you for a couple days is burrito bowls, casseroles, burger salads as well. And I also like to make every once in a while like a nice big meatloaf, because I find that lasts a couple of days. If you follow our page, Shape Up on Facebook, or my Instagram page, Shape Up Osteo Fitness Coach, I will post meal prep recipes on those 2 pages. So if you're already following, you can go ahead and you can scroll back down into the last couple of weeks where I've been posting meal prep recipes, and hopefully that will give you some ideas. And if you're new to our pages, you can as well take a look through there. I post full recipes so you know what ingredients to buy, and I tell you exactly how to put everything together. So like I said, burrito bowls, burger salads, casseroles, and meatloafs as well. I didn't write that on the meal prepping tips, but those are some of my favorite meals to meal prep because they make a lot of food. All right, tip number 4. So tip number 4 is choose foods that are easy to make. Now this might sound a little bit crazy, like why are you telling us this? Foods that are easy to make, they will make your meal prep so much easier. I wrote down the last little bullet point under that was to keep it general, nothing 5-star. Things that are simple, like where I was saying burrito bowls, super simple and delicious, burger salads, casseroles, those are things that you can make that aren't too fancy and don't require a lot of time to prep. Another thing that's usually really good for meal prep is like a roast chicken, and you can roast some veggies and maybe make some rice or some quinoa or a salad to go with it. Things that are super simple. Foods that are simple and not fancy, I also find reheat a lot better and taste better the next days. You could go, a little crazy, and it's perfectly fine to make super fancy meals every once in a while. But I just find when it comes to meal prep, the simpler, the better. This will also save you time, because generally simpler foods don't take as long to prep as fancier foods that have more steps and more ingredients. And that's another common thing you'll see if you look back at some of my recipes, is they're all pretty simple. And then even a lot of the recipes that are in the recipe books that were provided to you as part of the challenge, they're all pretty simple recipes as well. And a lot of those recipes are good meal prep recipes. You just need to adjust the serving sizes accordingly to how many meals you would like to get from that recipe. And our very last tip that I want to talk about tonight would be invest in some tools or appliances to help make your meal prep easier. So this is super helpful, especially if you're like me. I'm kind of a perfectionist, and so when it comes to like chopping up veggies and peeling things and slicing things, I like to make sure everything's all uniform, and it takes me a really long time to prep meals. Sometimes I'm a really slow cook. So it's super helpful for me to have some gadgets in my kitchen that help speed up meal prep. So I'm going to kind of go through some of my favorite gadgets as well. And of course, if you have anything, and including any other meal prepping tips that I may have missed, feel free just to add those down in the comment box. So some of my favorite meal prep tools would be a hand blender. I just bought a hand blender at Walmart for, I think it was $12 or $13 maybe a month or so ago. I've been thinking about getting a hand blender for a while, and then I just never did it. And then one day I was walking past an aisle at Walmart, and on the end cap they had these hand blenders for $12, and I thought, okay, it's $12. It does come with a warranty. I can't go wrong. And honestly, I'm really disappointed that I didn't get a hand blender sooner, because it makes making a lot of things so much easier. I really like using the hand blender to make guacamole, and I find the guacamole stays greener, doesn't brown as quickly, as opposed to just mashing it up with a fork or like a potato masher. I don't know if it stays greener longer when you use the hand blender because of the way it breaks up like the oxidizing chemicals that are in the avocado, or what it is, but I just find that guac stays greener longer, and of course guacamole looks a lot more appealing when it's bright green as opposed to brown. I also use the hand blender to make up a lot of salad dressings as well. They're small, and you can even plug the blender in, and you can immerse it into, if you're making soups and stuff like that, to help blend it up and puree it. My second gadget that I would highly recommend would be a chopper, something that dices up vegetables really quickly and easily. I use it's as seen on TV product called the Vidalia onion chopper. I can take a picture of the box and post it for you guys if you'd like. But this is a lifesaver. My mom actually got it for me for Christmas one year, and I told her how much I liked it that she went out and bought one as well. It just, when it comes to chopping onions, cucumber, zucchini, peppers, I also do tomato. It just makes the whole chopping process so much quicker. You can put mushrooms in there as well. Pretty much anything. You just sometimes have to be a little creative with how you fit it in on the little grid, but basically you cut the vegetable up so it fits on the grid, and then you just smack the lid down, and next thing you know, you have a handful of diced onion or pepper or whatever it is. So the chopper is super easy. When I make my burrito bowls, I kind of make my own little pico de gallo, and I find it really helpful with the pico de gallo, because then I just kind of keep everything in the container, and then I'll go ahead and I'll divvy it out into little containers for my meals throughout the week. Next up would be to invest in a really good large blender or food processor. When it comes to large blenders, my favorites that I have used would be Vitamix and Ninja. They're really good. They're super high powered, like 1500 watts or something for some of the stronger ones. They just make things so much easier, especially when you're making soups and stuff, for pureeing big batches of things. Even with your smoothies in the morning, they can whip up stuff really quickly. Food processors, of course, as well. If you want to make things like your own hummus, I like to use a food processor to make chocolate avocado pudding. They just make, when it comes to like the blending and pureeing and just chopping things up really rapidly, a good blender or food processor really makes a big difference. Next up would be a mandolin. Mandolins are great because then you can slice things up a bunch of different ways. I would invest in some really good Tupperware containers or glass Tupperware containers. That makes storing all of your prepped food so much easier. And then, of course, when you go to make your lunch for the next day, you can get things all organized nicely in your containers. Glass containers are really good for reheating as well, especially if you're using a toaster oven. I learned the hard way about putting a plastic container in a toaster oven. So glass it is for that, but good containers are really helpful. They just help you stay organized, and they, not only with your lunches, but when you open your fridge, you'll have everything nicely lined up as opposed to having things in bowls and on plates that you're trying to stack on top of each other. Good knives also make a big difference. Having nice sharp knives really help when it comes to chopping up and slicing things, especially harder things like carrots. Spiralizer or buying pre-spiralized noodles. So zucchini noodles are a big thing. You're even now seeing in the grocery stores butternut squash noodles, beet noodles, like whatever noodles, which is just the veggies basically spiralized up, and you can use it in salads or as a pasta replacement because you can put tomato sauce and stuff like that on top of it. So having a good spiralizer for those types of things is helpful, or you can even save yourself time by buying the noodles that are already pre-spiralized. Kind of building off of that pre-done for you theme. You can buy frozen veggies. They're super helpful, especially when it comes to steaming things and roasting things, because they're already chopped up and all you have to do is rip the bag open and dump it into the pot. Pre-cut veggies as well, whether or not they're frozen, also big lifesavers, or like veggie trays. These pre-cut items, especially the ones that aren't frozen, they can be a little costly. Sometimes the convenience, though, outweighs the increase in price. That's completely up to you. I like to take the easy road, and I like convenience, so I will spend a little bit more money to get things that are already chopped and cut up and pre-spiralized for myself. Also pre-chopped, you can get the pre-chopped salads and bags of greens. Those are really helpful for just throwing quick salads together, because you'll get kale and lettuce and cabbage and beets and carrots and all that stuff already in the bag, and all you got to do is just basically take a handful and put it in the bag, and then add some dressing, and you've got a nice quick salad. And you can of course add your proteins and your healthy fats to that, and there's basically a little meal, or at least a side dish, ready to go. And then the greens that are already cut up are also as well super helpful for your smoothies. I just buy the big bags of spinach. You can get them at the grocery store for like $2. So I just buy the big bags, and I just keep the big bags of spinach or kale or the 50-50 blend, whatever it is. I just keep them in the freezer, and then when I make my smoothies in the morning, I just open the bag and toss a handful into the blender. Same goes with the fruits for your smoothies. Buying frozen fruit that's already pre-cut as well will save you a lot of time from chopping in the morning. And then the last kind of quick little handy thing that I'll add in there for some kind of must-haves for meal prepping would be the 2-minute Uncle Ben's rice, or it actually takes kind of 90 seconds, and then you're supposed to let it cool for 30 seconds before you rip it open. That's super helpful, and it's really quick, especially when you're kind of frying other things, or you're chopping things, or you're cooking things, that we don't have to pay attention to the pot. All you got to do is just pop the rice in the microwave. The only thing, though, that I would just be careful of is a lot of the quick rice has a lot of additives in it, because the rice is already cooked. You're basically just kind of reheating it. So every once in a while, when you're really short on time and you want something nice and super quick and simple, that 2-minute quick rice is great just to have in the cupboard. It's just kind of like a last-minute add-on, especially when you're just kind of trying to wrap up a meal. You got your protein source and some veggies, and you maybe want a little bit of a carbohydrate source. That rice is super quick. I should add in quinoa is also really simple and easy to make. Couscous is like ridiculously easy. You just boil a pot of water, and then when it's done, you take the pot of water off the stove, pour in the couscous, and leave the lid on it for like 5 minutes. Like it's really easy to make a lot of those grains. So those are all great little add-ons that you can add to your meals. So just quickly to recap, my top 5 tips for meal prepping would be take a look at your weekly schedule and kind of plan out when you have time to prep meals, or look at when you're going to be busy and won't have time to plan meals so that you can plan ahead in advance for those times. Make a menu, organize your grocery list according to your menu. Make sure you're making recipes that make a lot of food. Choose foods that are easy to make. Keep it simple. You don't need to be fancy. This isn't a 5-star restaurant. And then the last tip would be to invest in some tools to help make your meal prepping easier. So I see you guys just added some comments. So I'm just going to take a quick little look through here. I'll take a picture of the onion chopper for you guys. It's super awesome. Like, I've try and chop as many things in there as I possibly can. And I had a Ninja and I loved it. I loved all the attachments. And then my grandma won a Vitamix that she gave to me, so I gave my Ninja to a friend that wanted to get on the smoothie train. So I used my Vitamix. But yeah, it's super easy. A lot of the blenders, like, they're getting pretty high tech, and like Anne saying here, her Ninja has a smoothie setting. Like, it just makes things so much easier. I'm actually going to, I was thinking this morning, tomorrow I'll post a little video for you guys on the ridiculously easy and best way to simply clean your blender, because sometimes they can be a little hard to clean or a little annoying. So I'm going to show you how you can also basically turn your blender into a self-made washing machine, and how you can quickly use it. So I'll take a little video of that tomorrow just for your viewing entertainment. And Brenda, yeah, you always prep on a Sunday. I know. I see your meal prep. I do like to prep on a Sunday, but I just find for me, I really do enjoy kind of looking at my schedule, and I have my certain times that I know I have time to prep food. So like I said, for example, usually on Sunday afternoon, I'll prep whatever I'm making for dinner. I'll prep foods for a couple days for the week. Monday nights, I have a little bit of time between work and then when I go to the gym to teach classes. So I come home, take the dog for a walk, and make dinner in that 2-hour block that I have. And then when I get home from the gym, my dinner is all ready to go. I just have to reheat it. And then Wednesdays are my days off. So then I kind of use Wednesday or Thursday morning, because I don't work till Thursday afternoon, is another time to meal prep for the end of the week. So I'll post the photo. I'll go downstairs and I'll take a photo for you guys, and I will add that into the group of the chopper. And that's all that I have for you tonight. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how to choose the right gym, or how to find a workout exercise program that works for you. I think this is a big thing, because it's a little overwhelming now, especially there's so many different chains of gyms that are popping up. There's boutique gyms, specialty gyms. There's the cheap gyms that are like $10 per month. There's gyms that cost you $60, $70 per month. There's group classes. There's personal training. There's small group training. There's so many different types of things out there. So tomorrow night we're going to talk about how to choose the right gym for yourself, and how to choose the right workout program. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. We will see you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Bye.